Results for the weekend box office. Dune, Part 2 scores spicy $82.50 million. The messiah of film has come, just as predicted. The person in bed has woken up. However, has the box office. Dune, when its studio offered us all the choice in October 2021. Theater or HBO Max. Part 1 performed about as well as could have been expected during the pandemic. It made enough to approve Part 2 so fans weren't left hanging in a Divergent-style manner. Would they attend the first book's conclusion? Is there a sufficient number of fans for Dune to meet Warner Bros.' financial needs, or is it still a niche fandom with a limited audience? These are the queries for the upcoming weeks. As of now, theaters are simply thrilled when a film opens in its first week and becomes the highest-grossing picture of the year. The second installment of Denis Villeneuve's Dune grossed $81.5 million on its opening weekend. That is almost twice as much as any 2024 release has made so far this year, behind only the movie that was moved to the position of runner-up this week. It will only take Dune, Part 2 4 days to surpass One Love. The total for Part 2 is also higher than the combined total of the year's top 3 opening weekends, and it would have ranked higher than Five Nights at Freddy's to be the 9th best opening of 2023. After Halloween Kills, which debuted the previous week, Part 1 had the second best day and date streaming release opening, ranking it as the 11th best opening of 2021. It appears that Dune is not as widely accepted as 2 Blumhouse releases from Universal, but those 2 were incredibly front-loaded and had historically low multiples following their opening weekends. With 2.64, Dune, Part 1 performed a little better. Part 2 intends to raise that figure as well, even though it is probably going to drop from the top spot the following week. On Thursday, the movie opened with $12 million. Marvel's Black Widow, which debuted during the pandemic, was one of only 2 movies to ever open to $10 million or more in previews and missed $200 million. However, that movie was also exclusive to Disney Plus and could only be seen for a premium price. Five Nights at Freddy's was the other. Only Black Widow, Venom, Five Nights at Freddy's, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Aquaman, and The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies have higher opening weekend gross than Dune. Part 2. With the exception of Freddy's, all of those were summer and holiday releases, and 2 of them even made over $300 million. Ant-Man had the lowest multiple of all of them. How front-loaded is Dune, Part 2, then? In its second weekend, Part 1 performed poorly against recently opened My Hero Academia, World Heroes Mission, Antlers, and Last Night in Soho, which, when added together, was still less than Dune's second frame of $15.4 million. In order for Warner Bros. To reach their goal of $1 billion for their franchise between the 2 installments, this movie would need to gross $600 million worldwide. Even though Part 2 doesn't open in China and Japan until later this month, it has already made $178 million, which is less than Part 1's $223 million global launch on its opening weekend. So what is the limit of Part 2? Only 6 movies, including Taylor Swift's performance from last year, have ever had an opening weekend gross of more than $75 million without going on to gross $200 million.